So how do you finish your carvings so they're smooth and nicely finished and look quite natural as well? Well, today's video I'm going to show you how I did this one and maybe another one as well, just for examples. And I'm sort of just going to go through practical tips on how to sand those last sort of like scratches out, make those tiny little details just a little bit smoother. Okay, so let's first have a look at this carving here. Now, this is quite a big carving and it's quite a soft wood as well. It's got some scratches on the cheeks, and so the first thing I want to do is try and get those scratches minimized. So essentially I will go in with a finer burr such as the Kutzall fine taper burr. Most scratches, really deep scratches, usually come from the Kutzall Flame Extreme burr. Now I don't worry too much about going to a coarse burr. I will go straight to the fine burr. You got to remember with the fine burr you're still kind of carving with that, but you're trying to get those scratches out, and always go lightly and quite fast over the wood. Now for bigger areas I will use the sanding disc, and there is a link to it in the description, and I go really lightly and I keep it moving so it doesn't form flat planes. And at the end of the carving I usually go in with a sanding sponge or sandpaper. The great thing about sanding sponges is they kind of like are quite soft, so they're not going to take away too much detail and sort of like go around and conform to your carving. And if you can't find any of those sanding sponges at your local hardware store, just sort of use a bit of sandpaper. I got 320 grit here, which is probably the finest I would ever go down to. You could probably just go to 220, I reckon. I just had 320, and it's looking pretty smooth. Now you've got to decide how smooth you want it. That's a big thing to do at the start. If you're like me, I try and get it pretty good, but not like perfect, because I kind of like that rustic kind of look. Now with this carving here, I didn't use the Kutzall burrs that much. I kind of used cutter burrs and everything like that, so everything is relatively smooth, but you can sort of see there's sort of like furry bits in there. So I'm going in with that. It's a Master Carver flame burr, and the grit on it is 150 grit, I believe. And there is a link. It's actually not an affiliate link. I just really like these burrs for this reason, is you can do a little bit of shaping with them, and you can sort of like finish off these little areas here. And it's still quite big, but you can sort of like manipulate it into places. So what you're trying to do is you're just trying to go really lightly without changing too much. If you press too much here, you are going to change the shape of the wood. So your 150 grit will still move quite a bit of wood, but if you do it lightly, and you can also slow the burr down, especially in something like a hardwood, because it's going to start burning if you're going too fast. And with the really tiny details, you can sort of see I am using the Dremel wheel point burr, and just going in and getting a little bit of shaping done, but just going really lightly, because I just want to sort of take off that fuzzy bit at the top and try and make it all uniform. And just remember, when you've got a really small burr on, not to press too hard, because you're going to leave dents in the wood. Now this is especially true with oak, because it has soft parts and hard parts. When you hit a soft part, it's really going to sink into it. If we can use that flame diamond burr on the larger carvings as well, this is a softer wood. And what the trick is, like the smaller carving, is just to keep it moving and to go really lightly. And a big thank you to everybody for watching the videos, and if you could hit that like, that would be also very awesome. But even on a small carving like this, you can still go in with your disc sander and get those larger areas, and you can get it really smooth. This one comes with a lot of different grits. You can sort of even do shaping on it. If you put it down to like an 80 grit, you could sort of like really shape it. I wouldn't recommend it on these smaller carvings, but you can sort of see, I think I've got like about 220 grit on there now, and I'm just going very lightly and getting all those little areas and just almost just touching areas and that's just enough to take the scratches out sometimes. Now we're using the sponge sandpaper on this, and you could use the paper sandpaper as well. I don't spend a lot of time sanding. I will go over this probably for about 5 minutes, and that's good enough for me. So it's looking pretty good now. I might go back and just fix up little areas with a diamond burr if I'm worried about them, but I think it's time to put on the wax, and I use a dark oak wax, and this wax is from Liberon. It is kind of a weird smelling one, but the smell of it goes away after a couple of days, and I will put on a couple of coats and generally wipe it off in between each coat, and then just try and work out how dark I want it to be in certain places. I will let it dry a little bit, and then I will polish it up with a cloth. You can sort of see the rays coming out there in the shoulder.